call to order and things like that. I'd like to, before we go into the agenda, we do have a request that Falmouth Television is here and they're filming our meeting today, so make sure you have the right side showing forward and things like that. So just so everybody is aware that we are being recorded today. Part of the agenda, welcomes and introduction. So it's sort of a tradition that we do. I'm Ron Passett with the Waltham Police Department.
Philip Simone in the Yarmouth Fire Department.
Sean O'Brien, Barnstable County.
Kevin Morley, REPC.
Jim Sullivan, Dennis Police Department.
Buster Brown, Dennis Fire, team leader, Barnstable County Incident Management.
Kenny Gillnet, Dennis PD.
Ken Farron, Coffee Stand Fire.
Brian Gallant, Sandwich Emergency Management.
Peter DiMatteo, Dennis PD.
Lee Conlon, Howard Emergency Management.
Helen Rossano, American Red Cross.
Tim Lynch, Mass Maritime Academy, Preston.
Your Robertson, Barnstable County Children's.
Roy Jones, Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority, and Barnstable County IMT.
John Cobble, Chatham PD.
George Hertola, Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment.
Heidi Nelson, Duffy Health Center.
Doug Forbes, MEMA.
Amy Olavi, Barnstable County Emergency Plan.
Diana Gottman, Medical Reserve.
Jim Barrett Forward.
Charlie Nice, Born Emergency Management.
Michael Small, Falmouth Fire.
Austin, Falmouth Fire.
Jeff Bars, Fire.
Rachel Potts, NEMA.
Paul Murphy, Coast Guard, Woods Hole.
Josh Nigro, DCR Force Fire Control.
Phil Burt, Barnstable County.
Jake Nickerson, Massachusetts Maritime Academy.
Callie Harper, Cape Cod Commission. Shannon Jarbo, Cape Cod Cooperative Extension. Nicole Mucci, AmeriCorps Cape Cod.
All right, I think that's everybody. Thank you. First item on the agenda, we have our minutes from our December 6th meeting. Get it out back. Invitation of motion to accept the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. We'll do subcommittee reports. First one up, the E-Board.
Executive Board will be meeting in February. We're still in the process of reviewing the bylaws. Once the bylaws have been completed, the review has been completed, we'll be going back to the executive committee so we can fill out the executive committee with the additional members. So we'll be meeting probably beginning of February.
Excellent. Any questions for the E-Board? Hazmat, Tier 1. I saw Amy here.
Tier 2.
Tier 2, I'm sorry, Tier. All right. Bad day.
For those of you that don't know, what this committee is founded on is the Emergency Planning Community Right to Know Act, and that includes the collection annually of hazardous chemical inventory reports for emergency response for hazmat incidences. So our region's Tier 2 hazardous chemical reporters under this federal law have been contacted already because the season, so to speak, for reporting began on January 1st. They've been contacted about a delay in the reporting software. The state has been determining what software they'd like us to use, so there's a delay in developing the final outcome of that software to use this year. Once a database has been established and ready, inventory collection and compliance assistance from me can begin. We currently have 269 facility filers for Cape Cod. And actually, no, I correct myself again, 369 facility filers for Cape Cod. I wish it was 269. We don't want more hazmat, we want less. And 27 for Nantucket. What I do is I'm hosting trainings for them, workshops to guide them through the process, office visits, consultations. It's just a madhouse for me from when this software is implemented until March 1st, which is the federal deadline. But it's a pleasure. We have really good compliance, and the EPA agrees on that. Also, this is a very big event for us this Friday. It's one of the biggest trainings we will have hosted here. It's for the Department of Fire Service District 1 Hazmat team. This training is going to guide them in resources and response tools for hazmat response. It's basically a goal of the training is to just empower them with data. The data and the computer workshop format is an all-day workshop for them to utilize what's inputted from those Tier 2s into Tier 2 Manager and other software, and how they can access that data. So what's in the data? Think of it this way. If you're a responder, what you want to know is where is it, how much of it is there, how's it stored, and how can it hurt or kill me? We use that data that we collect every year to put back into trainings to train up our team, because these are the fire personnel, including some of our chiefs, that respond to incidences on Cape Cod. So this is a pretty big deal. We have a guest instructor, retired Captain Stefan Kodolakis from East Greenwich, Rhode Island, who's coming down to help us as well. He's a great Canio instructor. So, you know, we're going to welcome our District 1 team on Friday. Any questions?
Excellent. Health Agent Coalition.
The Health Agent Coalition is now still sort of adjusting to the new organizational pattern of the health and medical coalitions, and everything's proceeding just as normal. We're just trying to figure out where it's all going to shake out and what the new organizational pattern how it will impact us. That's it.
Any other questions?
On December 18th, Health Agents also completed their Web EOC refresher training. Some of you know Web EOC training through MEMA, but DPH has their own version of Web EOC. So we had a good attendance. We had a full quorum for the refresher training on December 18th. Another thing the health agents are working on going into 2016 is identifying elder and special needs facilities on Cape Cod using GIS. And this is working with their contracted nurses. This is a task that they're doing under their CDC grant. So that should be a pretty interesting outcome on that.
Very good. Any questions for the Health Agent Coalition? IMT.
The IMT has been busy the last couple of weeks. The team was deployed out to assist Wellfleet with their search for a missing person, and there was a successful outcome there in the recovery of the missing person. In addition to that, members of the team continue to train, and we have 8 members training at Mass Maritime this week in the incident management training class. So.
Thank you. Any questions on IMT? Sheltering Task Group. We just met before our meeting today. We meet regularly. We're plugging right along. I don't think anything new to report, but we are meeting, getting our stuff all together. So, any questions for the sheltering? American Red Cross.
Thank you. In view of sheltering, we went out to Provincetown and to Bourne, which are the 2 satellite locations on the REPC map. And both towns have really comprehensive, robust plans. I have no doubt that they're able to deal with a planned incident as the rest of the REPC is. So we're helping fill in some gaps in resources in both places. And identifying, doing some more shelter surveying. In Bourne, for instance, Charlie and I met yesterday. One location that is preferable for them to use is in a floodplain. So we're looking at having plans to back up our plans. Going out to Nantucket tomorrow, where we have a revised MOU with the high school out there for our shelter. And one thing that I'm asking everyone I meet with as the winter starts and the new year starts is to identify in your communities non-school, no notice event shelters. We have incidents where we have multifamily fires, we would have a hazmat situation that required an evacuation, and we may need at any time of day a location to assemble 20 plus people. The Red Cross now has a policy that in terms of direct client assistance, if it's over 20 individuals, we have to open a shelter. So a lot of these things can happen when schools are open. Something that could happen that doesn't impact the school. So we need to locate facilities in our towns that are non-school based and that we can get into very quickly, mostly as reception centers. They very rarely become sleeping shelters, overnight shelters, but mostly to get people out of the water, register them, either provide snacks and water or feed them maybe for a meal or 2. and it's a pretty quick turnaround. But I will be contacting each individual town in our entire territory to be sure that you're thinking of that, and if we need to call you in the middle of the night and say, we've had a multifamily fire, and we have 32 displaced individuals, where would you like us to bring them? It would be a huge help if you would have a place in mind, in the back of your mind, whether it's a VFW, a church, Boys and Girls Clubs, or other facilities in your town might be appropriate. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Any questions for the Red Cross? Mima?
Just a reminder, we have our tabletop series tomorrow in Taunton, the mass care and evacuation series. It's part of the 18-month series that we started back in June and July. And it'll continue and end with a functional exercise at the end of that 18 months. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Mima? I have one comment, is our check arrived for the January blizzard, so it wasn't made out to me though, that's the only downfall, but we'll work on that for the next one. But thank you, and we appreciate that. Open Cape Liaison.
That group is going to be meeting the end of the month. We are still working on a date and time and location. If it's a committee anybody's interested in, please let me know.
Any questions? Citizen Corps.
Cape Cod Citizens Court Council is working on updating an emergency reference magnet card. We actually produced this probably about 6 years ago during H1N1, if anyone can remember back that far. And we are taking the same format, but we're completely restructuring it because our agenda going into 2016 is helping elders with shelter preparedness or also readiness for sheltering in place at home. So we're aiming this card at our elder population. The first draft is done. When we finish the final draft within the next month, we'll send to the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office. We'll have their print shop reprint this for distribution while we do presentations to different elder senior groups and through our partners here through the REPC. On a separate note, if you have any time today to stick around for about 20-30 minutes after the meeting, we're in the process of planning a fundraiser for our friend and our longtime colleague Frank O'Laughlin, which most of us know, and he's helped us through the years. If you can help with any kind of planning or with the event, I'd really like to encourage you to stay after the meeting, just about 20 or 30 minutes. Many hands make light work, so if you can connect with this group, we'd like to come together to provide help for Frank because he's helped us so much in the past couple of years, so we welcome you to stick around.
Any questions for the Citizen Corps? Aries. I know Frank left.
He left because I was making
I know. I thought he had his partner here, but no.
He knows about it, but he left.
He left. Oh, okay, they both drove together. Sheriff's Office. Okay. PIO.
We're trying to keep our powder dry, and we'll be working with the AmeriCorps volunteers and the Red Cross in terms of promoting shelter volunteerism. We're going to put together a program for public outreach, and looking forward to that.
PIO's worked on a shelter training video. Now, do we need a vote of the committee, or is that the E-board to put that out, or how do we? Yeah. We just put it out. I think everybody was ready. They liked it, so.
I mean, it went through censors.
Yep.
Everybody looked at it. It was fine, and so we're just going to put it up.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll be expecting information out, but we did a training with Mark Foley as he left his last branch director training. So we have an electronic version of the training to pass on and get new people trained up. So we will get that out to the folks. Excellent. Sean has draft bylaws.
Okay. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for coming in today. If you have not gotten a copy, there are some copies of the bylaws in the back. I think I also sent some electronic copies out to review as well. Who's to say that we're not active? We are updating our 2002 bylaws that were around since our formation. As we are going through our hazardous materials plan update, it's important for us to look at all the documents that are a part of the REPC. And one of the things that we did look at quite extensively through the executive committee was the bylaws. So if you have them in front of you, great. If not, you can take a copy home, look at them. The goal is just to kind of go over some of the high points today, look for some review, and then if you can get some information back to me, we'll get them in here for the February meeting to be voted upon. Our big push is, when these were written, we were primarily only doing hazardous materials in Sarah Title III. So we actually started, we actually added in a lot of the sections you'll see. There's information regarding all hazard emergency planning and response, and you may even see the MAC referenced once or twice. So that was one of the big things, was because we're doing more than the original hazmat, we needed to look at making sure we at least addressed it within our bylaws. We also, as you know, every town that's a member of the REPC has a vote. We have 16 communities that are members of the REPC, all 15 towns and the town of Nantucket as well. So every town has a vote. But also, as a minimum of Sarah Title III, we have 13 categories that need to be looked at. So we need to have somebody from the elected officials, and that's usually a county administrator or county commissioner, but that's changed a little bit because we meet at the same time they do. We have law enforcement agencies, emergency management directors, firefighting, first aid, EMS, health agencies, environmental groups, hospitals, broadcast, print media, community groups, disaster relief agencies, and even facilities, hazmat facility operators. One of the things we did in 2002, because we were on such a strong communications network, we added the sheriff's department. We added actually regional communications as well. One of the other things that we were asked was if the sheriff's department could be added in this. I don't see a problem with that, but we do have them in under communications. But the sheriff is a member of our executive committee. We could do that as well. We have always remember that everybody is appointed by their town, usually Board of Selectmen or town manager. We're going to be sending letters out as we go through this whole process with the hazmat plan. We will be sending letters out to have folks reappointed. We'll be doing that through our current membership, asking them to bring forward the request. Probably will be done at the same time as review of the hazmat plan. But we want to make sure that we have everybody up to date. Once the town appoints the person or the agency appoints the person, it then goes to the Barnstable County Commissioners and they make the appointment. So we're going to stick with that. Now, people can, and Sarah Title III does outline this, people can hold a couple of roles. Example would be Chief Facet. Chief Facet is the representative from the Police Chiefs Association, and he also serves as the town of Wellfleet's voting member as well. In the old days, it was Chief Jones, who was always RTA, and he also had the vote from Brewster. So people can do that, and we are going to have that as well. We did adjust our quorum in it. So if you get to the quorum part, we have gone from a 50 to a 40. The executive committee was okay with that. If you have a problem with that, let us know. We just want to make sure that we can actually get some things done. We've gotten pretty big over the last few years, and it's funny because the meeting before was just as filled as the meeting now. So some people have left, and some people, and some of those may be voting members as well. So we really need to, we try not to meeting people to death. So we want to make sure that we get that squared away. So if you have an issue with that, please let us know. The other thing is, in the previous set of bylaws, we had it listed as chair, vice chair. That has changed. It is now co-chairs. We've always done it as co-chairs back to Chief Carnes and all the way back to Chief Baker as well. They always treated it as a co-chair role, so we figured we might as well make it official in the bylaws. So we move forward with that as well. We are also going to be adjusting our executive committee. We've had some retirements over the years. We've had some changes. So we actually have it set up, if you look under the executive committee, we have it set up where it's just like how our original steering committee was. So on the executive committee, there will be 9 members. 2 from fire, 2 from police, the sheriff, 1 from Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment, 1 emergency management director, a town manager, and the utilities will have a member as well. Now, that's for the executive committee. We also have folks on different subcommittees besides, and we also, have a lot of organizations that are voting members of the full committee anyways. And besides, we are going to be reaching out to RTA, to Red Cross, just to reaffirm who their voting members are going to be as well as we go through this kind of housekeeping activity. So these are the the new bylaws. The executive committee has gone through and approved them. They have approved them to be brought to you. The process is to receive comment from you, and hopefully if everything is all set and we can get everything entered in, we will have a final copy approved at the next REPC meeting, which will be the first Wednesday of February as well. So any questions? That's a great thing. But I'm open for questions because they have changed. So it's good. Okay. I don't know if any of you were able to visit last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? White Bay actually put on a nice coastal conference over at the conference center, the former Dumpies over in Hyannis. They put a really nice presentation together, a good program to go over just kind of where we're at when it comes to climate change, emergency planning, a little bit of review on some disasters and storms. And both Callie from the Cape Cod Commission and Shannon here from Cooperative Extension Service gave some great presentations. A lot of your planners have probably met Shannon before, but we felt it was really good for her to meet all of you folks who are involved in emergency management as well. So without further ado, Shannon.
Great, thanks a lot, Sean.
Thank you.
So I am the brand new Community Rating System Coordinator and Floodplain Coordinator for the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension. I started in July. This is a new kind of position. You'll learn a lot more about the community rating system, but this is a really progressive position, and I applaud the county for taking this approach. So I manage the community rating system for all of the towns that are interested in participating in this program. So I'm going to tell you some more about what that is and what that means for you next. So first I'll start with some background in the National Flood Insurance Program, which is where the community rating system fits in. The CRS overview, then Barnstable County and the CRS, and then how you can contribute. Okay. So first, the National Flood Insurance Program. It was created in 1968 in response to the fact that the federal government was spending a lot of money on post-disaster cleanup because of floods, and the private market would not take on flood insurance because it wasn't a good investment for them. But the federal government needed some sort of mechanism so that they spent less money on flood cleanup. It is an optional program. No towns are required to participate in it. But if you don't participate in it, costs are a lot higher for your constituents. In exchange for participating in the program, the town agrees to enforce certain regulations that relate to buildings and land use. Flood insurance is required if your property is located in a special flood hazard area, which is any of these dark blue areas on the map up here. Any property with a federally backed mortgage or any federal financial investment is required to have flood insurance. So that's one of the reasons you want to participate in the NFIP, because private flood insurance is often not available, and if it is, it's very expensive. And that's a key part to the rest of it. So keep in mind that flood insurance is required for some folks. There are also some subsidies for structures that were built before the National Flood Insurance Program went into effect. If there were no regulations, there were no maps, how could these people have been expected to build in a certain way? So to keep it fair for them, they have a lower cost. It's about 50% of the true rate that they should be paying based on their risk. So that's another piece that's key for us here. And there have also been two major flood events that have affected the National Flood Insurance Program. These are Katrina and Sandy. So between these major flood events and the subsidies, there's been some, next. The National Flood Insurance Program has gone into extreme debt. It is $24 billion in debt right now. So this is a federal program. It is a debt to the federal treasury, which is a debt to all of us as federal taxpayers. So, next. There have been a series of reforms over the last couple of years to try to get the NFIP out of debt. Because again, everyone right now is paying for flood insurance on behalf of those folks that are at a higher flood risk. So the two recent flood reforms are the Bigger Waters Act and the Homeowner Flood Insurance Affordability Act. The first one was Bigger Waters that was passed in 2012. This increased rates for those subsidized policyholders, those folks that were built before the NFIP went into effect. Their rates were all going to go up 25% a year until they reached their full risk rate. So if they were at about 50% of what they were paying originally, they were eventually going to double. It also meant that when you sold your house, if you had a lapse in your flood insurance policy and you were one of these subsidized properties, you immediately had to pay the full rate. So if you're selling a home and you're subsidized and your flood insurance is manageable, but someone who's looking to buy your house suddenly has to pay the full rate, it made some of those home sales fall through because people couldn't afford those new costs. In addition to those changes, the Bigger Waters Act created a reserve fund and a new surcharge to try to build up the reserves for when the next Katrina or Sandy hits so that the NFIP doesn't have to continue borrowing from federal taxpayers. And finally, the overall intent of the Bigger Waters Act was to put the onus on those subsidized policyholders who, again, are paying about half of their true risk and get them up to full rates so that they were no longer subsidized and so that everyone else was no longer paying for them. That didn't go over very well for some of the reasons I've mentioned here. So about a year ago, the Homeowner Flood Insurance Affordability Act was passed. This reformed Bigger Waters, so it made it easier for primary homeowners. That 25% annual rate increase no longer applies to those subsidized primary homeowners. We didn't want to price people out of their homes. I say we, I didn't mean we. FEMA and Congress did this, no? But the intent was to keep folks in their primary homes. However, the decision was folks with second homes and businesses could afford the rate increase. So under the most recent reforms, second homes and businesses that are subsidized in the floodplain still have that annual 25% rate increase, and they also now have a $250 annual surcharge on top of that. The surcharge was added to try to make up for some of the costs lost when the onus was taken off of the primary homeowners. So for second homes and businesses, the second reform isn't great. But for primary homeowners, it's a lot better for those folks. So overall, oh, not yet.
Oh,
one more.
You're
You're getting excited here.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So there are also a couple more fees added. And this new reform puts the onus on all policyholders. Everybody's rates are going up, and everybody is getting some new fees. So there are definitely pros and cons to both sets of reforms. This is the one that we're at right now, so the reality is that everybody's rates are going up, some certainly more than others, some are only going up minuscule amounts. Okay, next. There we go. All right. So on top of these rate increases that, again, were a decision from Congress to get the NFIP out of debt and to make sure we're not all paying those flood insurance rates, at the same time, FEMA is remapping the entire East Coast. So as you may know, the Cape got new maps a couple of years ago, and they have expanded some of the flood zones. So in addition to everyone's rates going up, some folks are now in those flood zones that weren't before, so they now have to pay flood insurance where they didn't before, and those rates are going up annually as well. Okay, next.
We're trying to get you.
We're trying to get you
when you can do that.
Aww.
Yeah,
Oh, did it work? Oh, you just
There
have
you
to,
go.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I quit.
You did a great job, thanks, John.
Let's drop it.
So with all this, this high cost talk, you may start to think, well, what can we do? This is expensive for people. We want to relieve this. We want to make sure our economy stays strong. We have a lot of floodplain on the Cape. What can we do for folks? This is where the community rating system comes in. So the CRS is a voluntary national flood insurance program. It's a program within the NFIP that offers discounts on flood insurance in exchange for actions that reduce flood risk within a community. Towns participate in the program, not individuals. The towns participate on behalf of the constituents. And the CRS incentivizes resilience to climate change. It alleviates these increasing insurance costs. It makes towns and residents safer from flooding. There are a lot of pros to participation in the CRS. This is how the CRS actually works, how it's structured. It's a class system. There are 10 classes. 10 is the worst, 1 is the best. The classes correspond to an additional 500 points, and there is an associated premium discount. So those move in 5% increments as well. So a class 10 has a 0, has no discount. Class 9 has a 5% discount. Class 8 has a 10%, class 7, 15, etc. So that's a discount for everyone in the floodplain and for most people who have flood insurance. So not everyone who has flood insurance actually lives in a floodplain. Everyone can have flood insurance. I encourage you to have flood insurance. But you can have a voluntary policy outside of the floodplain. So I have flood insurance. I live outside of the floodplain. There's never been any flood damage at my house. So I have what's called a preferred risk policy. It's very low cost. It's very low risk. So I won't get a CRS discount because it's already a very low cost policy. But that discount will apply for everyone that's required to have flood insurance, everyone that is located in the high-risk floodplain, and several folks that are also outside of the floodplain and may experience flood damage. This is how the CRS works. It's broken into 4 categories of activities. These are public information, mapping and regulations, flood damage protection, and warning and response. You can see some examples of each of these activities, but I'll go into some more detail of these specific activities that apply more to emergency management. All right, so Barnstable County and the CRS. Where are we with the CRS? So again, I was just hired in July to help all of the towns on the Cape with participation in the CRS. This is the first position like this in the country. It is a resource-intensive program, so managing it on a regional scale seems to be the way that a lot of folks are interested in moving because it allows more towns to participate. So this is where I'm at right now with the towns. There are 4 that already participate in the CRS that joined well before I came on board. They are Provincetown. They are at a class 9, so they have a 5% discount. Orleans is also at a class 9, and then Chatham and Harwich are both at a class 8, which means they have a 10% discount. So then every town in orange there, I'm working with, we're already in the application process with. Wellfleet's the first step of their application has been submitted already. Eastham I'm working with now, Brewster I just started with, Barnstable and Mashpee. And then up next are Dennis, Sandwich, and Falmouth. And then the remaining towns have not yet made a decision about participation in the program yet, and I will continue to work with them as I get through the other towns to see if they are ready and want to participate. I'm going to pause on this to let you all find your town. This shows the savings for each town. So the first column is a total policy count. I mentioned not everyone gets that CRS discount. But I think this is really interesting because you can see how many folks actually have flood insurance. And you can see that there are a lot of folks that have voluntary flood insurance, which is great news. The second column is the CRS policy count. So that's how many policyholders will benefit from participation in the CRS. Then the total premium is the next column. That's how much money folks in each town are spending on flood insurance premiums. The next 2 columns are savings for 2015. So So at a class 7, which is a 15% discount, it is my goal to get all of the towns to at least a class 7. You can see how much would be saved in each town at a class 7, and then the average per policy in each town. So total, if every town is able to get to a 15% discount, that'd be over $2.1 million in savings for Barnstable County from participation in the CRS. And that's money that goes back into policyholders, residents' pockets, and then can be spent locally in other ways. So how can you contribute to the CRS? Here are some examples of the activities that actually earn credit. And these are things that may be related to the work that you do as emergency managers. Open space preservation in the floodplain is maybe not as related to what you do, but this is the biggest credit earner. Preserving open space in the floodplain is the best way to earn credit. Cape towns have done a wonderful job at open space preservation, and already that's earning the towns that have been working with a lot of credit so far. It also does make your job easier because if there are no people there, same reason that I'm interested, if there are no people there, there can be no risk to them, there can be no damage there. Acquisition, relocation, or demolition of flood-prone structures, that can be funded either privately by a grant. Anyone can do it, but it will earn CRS credit. Getting a structure out of the floodplain and either keeping it as open space, or you can rebuild there, but you're going to build up to code so that that structure is as safe as it can be from flooding. Same thing with elevating or adding flood vents. You know, the folks may want to stay in their homes. That's likely. They may want to lower their flood insurance costs. And if they have the means, elevating or adding flood vents or even filling in a basement, these are ways that folks can lower their flood insurance premiums, and it also earns a CRS discount. Maintaining stormwater systems to reduce flooding from backups, improving the capacity of stormwater systems, such as enlarging culverts, hazard mitigation plans that include flooding and repetitive loss information. Callie Harper from the Commission and she's working on a lot of the hazard mitigation plans, and she and I are working together to get that information included in the hazard mitigation plans. Other ways, you can become a certified floodplain manager as a town employee. Just a side note here, in the next few months, will be hosting a CFM prep class and a CFM exam, probably in February or March. So I'll be getting that out to everyone, and if you're interested, please join us. There's also public outreach, especially to increase flood awareness in flood-prone areas. If you're the public information officer, it sounds like maybe you and I should talk. There may be some overlap of things that you might already be doing that can earn CRS credit. And another specific item is high water marks. This is something that's in progress with AmeriCorps. Nicole Mucci here from AmeriCorps is working with me and is working with a lot of folks in your towns to get these signs out in your towns so that folks understand where the highest high water came, how deep it was, that flooding is a real risk, just a gentle reminder of that, and that also helps to earn CRS credit. There is a specific emergency management section of the CRS. I'm going to just go over what's included in this. I believe every single thing needs to be included in order to get any credit. This is one of the slightly more challenging portions of the CRS. There has to be flood-related information included in the hazard mitigation plan. We've got that down. Flood inundation forecast maps for various levels of flooding. I believe storm surge inundation maps that show inundation from different categories will count for this, but I do need to verify that. Then there needs to be a flood warning and response program. So this has to have a flood threat recognition system. Often this is gauges that alert you when floods have reached a certain stage. The CRS and the NFIP were created as riverine systems, so they're still kind of making their way over to the coast. So this is something that's geared a little more toward riverine systems, but there are of course ways that we can make it work for coastal situations as well. There have to be methods of warning the public, such as the Code Red or Reverse 911 that I know a lot of the towns have, and outreach to the community to let the community know that these are the ways that the folks will be contacted. There has to be a flood response operation plan. This is pretty detailed. This is kind of where some of the hang-ups come. But there may be some, if you already have a national incident management system set up, that may help with this, because FEMA does try to coordinate across its programs. There has to be coordination with critical facilities that are at risk of flooding or that are needed during a flood event. The plan must be adopted by the governing body of each community, so if it were to be a regional plan, it would still need to be adopted by every community, or it can be done within each community, and then of course it would be adopted that way. And there have to be annual exercises and evaluations of this program. I do want to point out that only 2 communities in New England have gotten credit for this, and they are Westport and Milford, Connecticut. So it is a little more challenging to get this emergency management credit, just because you have to meet every single one of these items. But if this is something that you're already doing, this is something that I want to find out that I haven't yet gotten to working with you all on yet, but I want to know this. And if it's something that you have the capacity to do with my assistance, I would love to get some of the Barnstable County towns to get credit for this and to improve CRS ratings and to be a leader on this in New England. So I am certainly open for helping with any of this if you're interested in pursuing it. And with anything else, if you can think of anything that's related to flooding that you do, let me know, because it may be something that you can get credit for. So I will stop there and happy to take any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon, and the group. It works, it's okay. Any news, open announcements, information for the group?
I've got one item because with the Coast Guard in Woods Hole, just my coworker wanted me to pass. We do an annual oil spill exercise in either southeastern Massachusetts or Rhode Island every year. This year's scenario for our oil spill will be Buzzards Bay. So it'll be March 10th. It'll be a workshop-based exercise, discussion-based. We're not sure of the location yet, but I think we're going to be dealing with some issues on the eastern side of Buzzards Bay and possibly the canal. We actually held our tabletop exercise about a year ago here for Cape Cod Bay, and it was great. But if anybody's interested in that, wants to be a part of it, please let me know and I can get you more information, or at least get you on the invitation list for the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything news? I have one comment just real fast. I just want to thank the different agencies that helped. Last week we had a missing person go missing in Wellfleet. It was a 4-day search. We found about it Monday night, and we located a party on Thursday morning and things like that. So we had many different people out there. We had local police, we had the state police assisting, we had fire department assisting. Sean came out with the IMT team, and we had many groups come out and help and things like that. So we do work well together, we do play well together, and it's a sad event, but we did get some finality to the event, so that was a positive outcome. So just wanted to reach out. And anybody who was in contact or assisted, I thank you. I know you're out there. We try to minimize how many people we had. It was a very remote area, so I just want to thank everybody. Anything else for the group? All right, cool. We meet quick. I think it was.
Motion to adjourn.